Well, the saga of the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler just took another turn as the Miami Heat have officially suspended Jimmy Butler 7 games as they search for a trade for the disgruntled star. We're going to talk about all and more right after this.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks.
Wrong one.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. This one just comes down from Shams himself, or Shams. Miami Heat have suspended Jimmy Butler for 7 games for multiple instances of conduct detrimental to the team over the course of the season, and particularly the last several weeks. Shams also adds in this: the Heat say they are open to listening to all Jimmy Butler offers, though through his actions and statements, he has shown he no longer wants to be part of this team. Jimmy and his representative have indicated that they wish to be traded. Therefore, we will listen to offers. So after not too long ago, in which Pat Riley came out and said that the Miami Heat were not looking to trade Jimmy Butler, they would not be trading Jimmy Butler. And then Jimmy Butler comes out and officially makes his trade request known. Now he's suspended, and now they are actively searching for a trade for the disgruntled star in Jimmy Butler. This is just, I said it on today's daily episode, which I think I just released a couple of hours ago, in which once Jimmy Butler makes it known that he wants out of a situation, he's going to make sure he gets out of that situation. And that's basically what's happening here now, right? We've seen it before. It's happened in Chicago. It happened in Minnesota. It happened in Philly. And once Jimmy comes to the realization and gets to the point where he wants to be gone, come hell or high water, this is the situation that you find yourself in dealing with Jimmy Butler. And it's really unfortunate, right? Jimmy, when you look at how that whole thing went of him eventually joining the Miami Heat, helping lead that team to 2 titles, right? Being really the heart of that team, even though they still had Heat culture and things like that, whatever you want to mention, it just comes down to it that, hey, you got to perform in the way that you have to. Jimmy, who took it personally when the Miami Heat did not want to pay him what he wanted. And I think that it just comes to, players come to this point periodically. You get to a point to where you view yourself differently than the way teams are viewing you, and that mainly becomes about your age and projection and going forward. And I said it in today's daily episode as well. I think that we're nearing the place where legacy contracts are done. And by legacy contracts, I mean teams are no longer going to be paying players for what they did in the past, right? When you look at the era that now you live in with the second tax apron, teams need to be much more selective over the big contracts that they hand out. You look at like the contract that Draymond Green got with the Golden State Warriors. You're not going to be seeing a lot of those legacy contracts given out anymore. And Jimmy is a byproduct of that. He expected a legacy contract because of what he's done for that Miami Heat team. And in a different era, he may have gotten it. No problem, no questions asked. But in this era of the second tax apron, having a $52 million player option for next year, the Miami Heat were understandably kind of, looking and viewing the situation in totality. And they had to do the risk versus reward over how limiting it could be for that team going forward. And when you look at where the Miami Heat are now, right, they're not a team that is a threat to come out the East, really. They're a good team. They're a solid team, 17-15 on the season. They're the 6th seed right now in the Eastern Conference. But nobody's really looking and viewing the Miami Heat as a championship contender. And because of that, the Miami Heat are going to be very focused and restrictive over how they give out and how they dish out money going forward. And for Jimmy, he's a 35-year-old player who is starting to slide. Still a productive player, make no mistake about it. Jimmy can still be very productive. We've seen it happen before. We understand. We know what Jimmy can be when Jimmy's in that zone and he's given all that effort. We know what Jimmy Butler can be. But it's the facts are the facts. He's 35 years old, and now he sits in a place with a franchise that isn't really a contender. So, it's unfortunate when it comes down to it. Jimmy's going to sit for a few games. The Miami Heat are going to go out and try to find a deal for him that makes sense for them, that makes sense for Jimmy. And that's the way this story is going to end, man. Jimmy going to sit a few games. Seinfeld reference earlier you mentioned on the show. Exactly. D-Wade left for the same reason but came back. That's true. D-Wade left for the same reason, but I think even then, right, that the Miami Heat regretted not giving Jimmy that offer. And I think that we saw that, right? But even then, like, yeah, the Miami Heat were restrictive then, and Dwayne Wade accomplished a lot more for the Miami Heat than Jimmy Butler ever did. And and again, that's not a slight of Jimmy. We know the player that Jimmy Butler can be when he's on the basketball court. But unfortunately, at his age, where the Miami Heat are, it just does not make financial sense for the Miami Heat to re-sign Jimmy Butler. Not at the money that he's wanting, right? It'd be different if he was willing to, to take a longer term contract that maybe gets paid less per year, but gives him some long-term security. But Jimmy wants to get paid. And I don't know if he's going to find that deal out there regardless. I just don't know if Jimmy is going to find the deal that he wants regardless of all of that. But hey, I mean, the Miami Heat are a team that they don't really even like to pay the luxury tax. They're $8 million into the luxury tax right now. They're only $2 million below the second tax apron. And we know how teams are. Teams want to avoid that second tax apron by any means necessary. They just do. Houston, if they aren't afraid of his possibility of souring, I think would be the best fit if they use some pieces to add, but I don't know if they'll do it if I'm Houston. Yeah, I don't think right now Houston is willing to give up the young pieces that it's going to take, right? They could. They very well could. I just don't know. I think that you're looking at Golden State is definitely one that I think can definitely be interested in them. The Orlando Magic, I think if they're going to go in, I think they're going to want a different player. I think they're waiting for De'Aaron Fox, my personal opinion. We'll see what happens there. What's up, my guy? Do you see a 3-team trade now maybe now involving our Bulls? I doubt it. I doubt the Bulls get involved in this type of thing. I mean, anything's possible, especially when you look at a 3-team trade, but I don't think the Bulls want Jimmy. I don't think any of the teams that are really interested in Jimmy Butler have anything that the Bulls could want. Really. Now, maybe if the Bulls look to maybe dump some salary in that deal or something like that. But even then, I don't see it happen, to be honest with you. Denver Nuggets maybe can get involved. I think you're looking at them. I mentioned before in today's earlier episode as well, Paul George, even though he's starting to wake up, he's starting to play a lot better for that Philadelphia 76ers team, but maybe they look to do something like that, right? But overall, I think this is going to be really difficult for teams to really get involved in this Jimmy Butler conversation personally. And, we'll see. I went over it. Go and look at today's daily episode if you kind of want the details there. It's going to be really hard for a lot of the teams, especially teams that were mentioned that reportedly that Jimmy Butler is really interested in. You look at the Phoenix Suns, the only way that they can get there is Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's already said he has no interest in waiving his no trade clause. The Dallas Mavericks aren't really looking to make a big move right now. They want to kind of hold all their chips maybe into the offseason. The Houston Rockets are another team that I think are going to see what they get out of this team and then wait to see if a disgruntled younger star comes available in the offseason. So it really leaves the Golden State Warriors that could get involved. I do think the Denver Nuggets can get involved as well. Really outside of that, to be honest with you, I don't know. I really don't see, and maybe that's just my limited view right now, but I really don't see a lot of other teams getting involved for it. Maybe 3-team trades are the way to go in the future in the new CBA, trading the high salary guys. Yeah, but the thing is this, right? That's always been a case, right? But you still only one team can take on the salary of a high salary guy. So I think that, you've always seen kind of 3-team trades worked in there as one piece goes to a different team. Hell, we did it. The Bulls did it this season with DeMar DeRozan. But I don't know how much that really saves things overall, especially for teams that are close to the second tax apron or above the second tax apron, because you can't trade multiple players in any trade if that's the case. So that's really restrictive in that case too. So, it's going to be real difficult. The new CBA, I'm telling you, that new second tax apron thing is difficult to manage. It's difficult to manage. And you're seeing it now with the Suns. You're going to see it a lot now with a lot of teams in the future as well. If you get into that second tax apron, you better damn well believe in the roster that you have. Because if you don't, and you feel like you got to make a move or you need to add something, it's going to be extremely hard to do. Third team or not. It's going to be very, very hard to execute. And the Miami Heat want to avoid that. And I would like to think as well, just looking and reading the tea leaves, unless the Miami Heat are getting a player back that they absolutely love, they're going to probably be looking for some expiring salary in this one. You look at it, if the Miami Heat are, for example, if they take back a contract that's only half of Jimmy Butler's for next season, meaning that a lot of expiring money, they can be anywhere between 20 and $30 million below the salary cap, not just below the luxury tax, below the salary cap, which could give them some flexibility to do some things, right? So that may be something that they're looking at, and we'll see what happens there. But hey, it's going to be a very, very interesting story to watch when this is all said and done. How this thing is gone for Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. But Jimmy's doing this is what Jimmy does. Right. And I don't even mean that as a slight necessarily, just the reality of the situation. Jimmy Butler is a player that once he becomes disgruntled, once he wants out of a situation, I mean, his attitude, the way that he performs, the stunts that he pulls, it's been documented. Minnesota, Philly, Chicago. You see how his story ended with all those teams. And I'm sure teams this is probably going to be Jimmy Butler's last big contract, but teams need to be a bit wary of that as well. Jimmy Butler, when he's on the court, is a dog, right? You cannot take away the mentality, the competitor, how Jimmy Butler has a 30th overall pick in the draft, how he turned how his career turned out, and that came from his hard work, his determination, and his belief in himself, right? But part of that belief in himself and that dog that had to be built there, it turned, right? And Jimmy Butler is a guy that once he sours in a situation, he makes sure everybody knows it. And that's a positive and negative when it comes to Jimmy Butler. And it says Jimmy has the talent, but he has had many beefs with multiple franchises. Facts. Now, I do think that some of those players that he had beefs with, they look back at it now that they're older, and I think Karl Anthony Towns looks back at Jimmy now and is probably like, hey, Jimmy was probably saying some things that we needed to hear, but we were young. Embiid's the same way. I think Embiid would love to have Jimmy Butler back, right? But at the same time, it's been consistent, and we know exactly how once Jimmy Butler wants out, it goes the way that it goes. And that's been consistent throughout Jimmy's career. Right now, Bulls got 9th and 39th pick. What does that have to do? Why are we talking about the Bulls? Why are we talking about the Bulls? Exactly, bro. Yeah, I mean, that's just it's unfortunate, man. Jimmy's a dog, bro. And I hope that wherever Jimmy goes, he goes to a situation to where he can compete over the last part of his career. Because that's what he wants to do. Jimmy wants to compete. He wants to be fighting for something meaningful. Jimmy is not at the place. You do not see Jimmy right now doing something where he goes to the team and he plays a mentor role. Jimmy wants to go somewhere where he's going to have veterans. He wants to go somewhere that he's going to compete. He wants to go somewhere that he's going to have a chance, right? And I just don't know if those teams are going to have a lot of the assets that are going to benefit the Miami Heat hugely. And we'll see where it comes down to. See what it comes down to, man. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. And we'll see where this shakes out. I do think that this definitely impacts the Miami Heat in their negotiation. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. It's definitely going to hurt the Miami Heat when they go to the negotiating table with some of these other teams. But hey, this is the situation that it puts himself in. Pat Riley's going to try to manage it the best that he can. And we'll see what the Miami Heat can get out of this situation. We'll see. Tevin, Jimmy has to go. Got to trade him for whatever at this point and build off Hero, Bam, Jovic, Ware, and JJJ. I agree with you. Completely agree with you there. Jimmy just wants his cake and eat it too. He has to realize that he's not in the heyday of his career anymore, and he has to fall in line. Well, that's the thing. He doesn't though. He's a free agent, and he's using his free agency to hold it over a franchise's head. And listen, that is a negotiating tactic. I mean, that's free agent. That's the power that players have when they become free agents. Now, I'm not saying that I appreciate the way that he's going about it. I do think this is sour grapes the way that he's going about it. I do think that it could have been handled a lot differently and a lot more constructively. But I mean, like I said, nobody should be surprised about this. This is how Jimmy Butler has always handled things when he gets to the point of being over a situation with the franchise. It's always how he's handled it. Always how he's handled it. Cleveland a sleeper trade target? I don't think so, Xavier. The reason why I say that is that I don't think Cleveland wants to disrupt what they have, right? And what they have. They have no reason right now to make a trade, the sizable trade of Jimmy Butler. They have no reason to do that. I mean, because you got to look at it. Just to match Jimmy Butler's contract, you're talking about them having to give up a key piece of their rotation. Now, if the Miami Heat say they're willing to take Max Strus and Karis LeVert back in a first, okay, right? But I just don't think that with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the way that they're playing right now, why take a chance of disrupting that? Why take a chance of disrupting that? At some point, Jimmy's contract has to start to his contract, yeah. I mean, his play is already starting to decline. He's not the on-ball defender that he used to be. He can't switch as fast as he used to be, and he can't guard as many positions as he used to. But again, he's 35 years old. I know that LeBron's doing it at 40, but this is the place where it starts slipping a little bit, right? Baki, Warriors are the most logical team for Jimmy. I mean, I can see that as far as fit on the court. The Golden State Warriors have been a little bit less open to moving Andrew Wiggins lately, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to lie. Pat Riley has to learn from his mistake as well, because this is the third time that he's gotten into it with his players that they're past their prime. Yeah, I mean, I could get what you're getting at with that one. Cleveland is always good in season, but fall short in the playoffs. He'd be a decent fit there for their weaknesses. Yeah, but listen, this isn't the same Cleveland Cavs. Like I said, I'm not doubting your logic, Xavier. I just don't think the Cavs look to remotely disrupt what they do when they have the best record in the league. I just don't that it'd be different if this was a year where they were hovering around 4 or 5. They're the best record in the league, and they don't show any signs of slowing down. And keep in mind, they're doing all of this without Donovan Mitchell having the usage rate or the scoring output that he used to have. I just don't think that the Cleveland Cavaliers look to make a deal like this right now. How are we feeling about the Ball Brothers song? Shit's kind of fire. I haven't heard that. I don't care about the Ball Brothers song. I don't give a shit. Billy, why you keep listen? I'm gonna put Rob in timeout if you keep talking about the Bulls. This is not a Chicago Bulls Central live stream. Rob, wake up. If you were OKC Hayes, would you try to get them? They have the young players and the picks that will increase their chances at a chip. No, I don't think so. I think what Jimmy offers, you're getting mainly from your players, and they're at a much less contract. And if you do need to move them, you can get something better than Jimmy Butler. Personally, you know, man. Hayes, go Bulls, 0 tomorrow. I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. Rob said, yeah, I wouldn't mess with the Cavs chemistry, maybe minor add. Yeah, exactly. I don't think that the Cavs look to make a move like that. Making a move for Jimmy Butler is a major move. I don't think they look to do that right now, not where they are personally. But all right, y'all. That's my thought. That's the time. I just wanted to get this news out. This is crazy. The way that all this is going is honestly wild. And we'll see where it ends up. But the Miami Heat now are focused on moving Jimmy Butler. They've suspended him for 7 games. To me, that means that that's probably their time that they're looking at. I just want to see something real quick. Where does 7 games put them at? Let's see. Give me 1 second, y'all. I apologize. I just want to look at what's the date at the end of that 7 games. So 7 games would be January 15th. So that's 12 days. They're basically giving themselves 12 days. 12 days to find a trade partner for Jimmy Butler. The rumor I keep hearing is the Suns. I don't see Jimmy. Well, that's not going to happen, Baki, because the only way that the Suns can do it as a team over the second tax apron is Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal has already said he's not waiving his trade clause. So that's not going to happen. Unless they're willing to trade Devin Booker for Jimmy, it's not going to happen. So I doubt that the Jimmy Butler is going to end up with the Phoenix Suns. I just don't think that that's going to happen. But y'all said I don't see Jimmy as a fit. Warriors are the only team that Jimmy decline in play would actually revitalize the team. That I agree with. I do think the Warriors do make the most sense. We'll see if it happens. We'll see what happens. But all right, y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As we're trying to grow the channel, we just reached 2,200 subscribers not too long ago. Next, trying to get to 3,000. Thank you guys. In exchange for that, we'll be delivering some of the best daily NBA content that you'll see around. Make sure you're following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.